This time on ChinnyVision 5 Tandy Colour Computer 2 games. The Tandy Colour Computer 2 is the follow-up to the original TRS-80, also from Tandy. Has more memory, but is backwards compatible with the original system. Didn't make a big splash in the UK. You may be more familiar with the Dragon 32, which is loosely based on the same framework and has a limited degree amount of compatibility with some tape and disc software, but it's a bit sketchy, really. Not a huge hit in the UK. This computer was a much bigger success in the USA and other markets, and this is the Colour Computer 2 version. There's also a Colour Computer 3, which people have been saying I should get one of, but they're like hen's teeth in the UK. I've obtained 5 games for the system on cartridge, and actually I've got most of these games across from the USA. And there's also been one complication because Tandy published the games, and they also made sure that you needed their joysticks to play their games, and you also needed to have 2, amazingly, for some games. So I've had to order up 2 adapters from the USA, which I got rather stung for on import duty and handling. Thanks, Royal Mail. Thank you so much. I previously done a full review of the system, by the way, but let's plug in our first game, which is Dino Wars from 1980. RG Kilgus, 1980, licensed to Tandy Corporation. Press enter to start game. And there's 2 dinosaurs wandering around, and one of them's heading up towards the background. This is a 2-player game only, and one of my joystick adapters is faulty. That's great. That's really great. So, yes, there is sample speech, and what you have to do, imagine Street Fighter 2, but with dinosaurs, and there's only 2 players, and you just got to beat the crap out of each other, because that's what happens here. Let's look how big those sprites are, and I'm right at the background of the playfield at the moment because, unfortunately, my right-hand joystick keeps on going forwards, even if it's not doing anything. So my red dinosaur is just wandering around the background. And it's quite difficult to play a 2-player game by yourself. I can imagine this game is quite a lot of fun if you've got someone to play with. And look at the scaling. Look how big the dinosaurs get when they get towards the screen. This is 1980. 1980. In the UK, you'd been playing on your ZX80 in black and white with a screen flickering every time you pressed a key. So this is quite impressive. But that's all there is to the game. 2 players, some roaring and beating each other up with the score. It is the early days of video games though, and if you think Pong was cutting edge just a few years before this on the home systems, then look how big these sprites are. Ultimately, a very limited game, but for 1980, quite technically impressive, and yeah, perhaps the first time you'd have heard sampled speech on your home computer. Video Pinball. And you can edit and load in your own tables from cassette as well, but 1 to 4 players. And yes, again, you need 2 joysticks. Just for left flipper on your left joystick and right flipper on your right joystick. I mean, that's nuts. Why there's no... We know why there's no keyboard controls, because Tandy want to silly joysticks. You pull back, and then the ball, I say ball, the dot launches, and I haven't pressed my flipper yet. So right joystick is right flipper, left joystick is left flipper on the fire button. Oh, no, got out of that. I say it's pinball. It's a bit like Breakout because you also have to hit all those boxes at the top. Oh, so it's a weird hybrid of Pinball and Breakout. The ball is ludicrously small. I mean, tiny. Why it's so small is probably known only to the coders of this game. And by the way, this week on ChinnyVision, I'm having to use RF output from this computer because there's no composite video, no RGB, no S-video. It is RF only unless you mod the computer, and I don't really want to do that because, as we'll have seen, it's quite pristine. Next game up is Skiing, also by RG Kilgus, who did the dinosaur game, so I'm expecting impressive things. Simple and complex joystick controls. Gets it? So again, sampled speech, and down we go. Look at the scaling. It's scaling the dinosaur game, except you're flying through the course. You've got to hit the flags. Look at this for this era. Oh, it looks so basic. It looks like that racing game by Atari in the arcade, but wow. I imagine all these graphics that are scaling are actually stored as bitmaps or something on the cartridge. It's not doing this in real time. It's all pre-rendered and stored in the cartridge memory. Wonder how much memory these cartridges had on them. It can't have been much when you consider 16K expansion for a ZX81 cost £100. Then I don't think it's going to even be as much as 16K on the ROM in 1980, or they would have been ludicrously expensive. See if I can find that out and put that on the screen. Okay, look, there's not an awful lot happening here once you've worked out you've got to hit the flags. There's an option in the menu to re-randomise the course. It says course, or make a new course. What it means is just randomly generate a new course with hills and flags in different places. Up and down do nothing. You really only go left and right. The Tandy's joystick controls are analog, but most games actually just treat them as digital. Oh, and there's a dot to help you aim, and there's some... What are they? Elves? People in... Is it E17? It's E17! E17! E17 fan club are waiting for you at the bottom of the course. That was quite good fun. Kind of game you didn't really see on the UK 8-bits. Your Spectrum C64 and Amstrad. With that scaling, perhaps because of memory constraints. Wildcatting, which we've featured before in ChinnyVision. We're going to look at again. 1981, the image producers. It's an oil exploration game. So you type in your name. And you have to find oil. And yes, well, it's about as exciting as well, an episode of Dallas, really. It's not that exciting at all. Has joystick controls, so it gets your hopes up, but it means nothing. So, week 1 of Wildcatting, Chinny, £0. You have to go around the map here and select where you want to drill, and it's completely random. So, we've got 58% probability of oil being there, and there's some figures on the screen. It's a resource management game. One that's over quite quickly. I don't want to drill my well there, so next player. And you get a little colour thing showing you the kind of amount of oil on the map. 44% don't want to drill there. 58%, should we go yes this time? And now you get a little animation and you have to press fire to drill deeper at greater cost. Really, as a one-player game, this is a dead loss. You're supposed to be playing it against other people and then see who comes out top. Woo, we've struck... Is that water or oil? Because it's blue. I'm guessing I've struck water, but I think I've probably struck oil. There you go, $1,350. I've been taxed, I've got income, I've lost $1,476 on that deal. Right, later in the game, I'm bored, and yeah, I've dug in all these places, and it's boring, and this game is, and there it goes, it's going to reveal the map now of where all the oil was. It's like a board game where you've got no friends. Canyon Climber. Now, before we begin, you may have heard about a thing called NTSC artifacting, which creates false colour if you have an NTSC display. However, this is an NTSC cartridge and we're in PAL land. So what you're going to see now is a complete and utter mess. Because I can't. Well, I will hopefully be able to throw some pictures in from emulated images just to show you what it should look like. But anyway, there you go. What you've got to do is you run through the map, jumping over the mountain goats and setting off the dynamite. So it's like a combination of many games you will have come across before. There are 3 screens of well, they all differ. We'll see those. Jump over the goat, select the other piece of dynamite, which you can't, or the other plunger, which you can't really see on this. That purple and green striping will actually turn into orange, believe it or not, when displayed via composite or RF on the NTSC television set. But here in Powerland, well, it doesn't work, basically. I'm also going to suggest that this game's probably running slower than it would in the USA. I got this cartridge across from the USA, like many of these, by the way, because Coco 2, which is the nickname for the computer, cartridges are pretty rare in the UK. And your best bet is the USA, where they're quite cheap, but the postage is quite expensive. Nice effect there. Lovely effect. Right, level 2, you now got to go kind of hunchback and jump over the arrows to get to the top of the screen. There is a shield which will prevent you from hitting the arrows, but you can't jump when you're carrying it. So the best thing to do is just jump over the arrows. There are, I believe, 9 or 10 levels once you've completed the first 3 screens, and now you've got the canyon screen, so you've got to jump up to the top whilst birds drop rocks on you, but frankly it looks like they're pooing on you. And when you get to the top of the screen, you'll be hit by a goat, and you won't lose a life for that, but you will return to the bottom and start again. There we go, I've lost a life. Oh. The game also has a practice mode where you hold down a key when you start the game and you get extra lives, which is what I've used here. Although that's it, basically. I think they probably recognised the game's quite hard, so they built a little thing in if you wanted some more lives. Because, you've got to be very precise with your jumping. Do have the advantage that I'm playing this on my zip stick, which seems an extremely modern anachronism given the age of this game and this system. And thanks to the channel's Patreon supporters who enable me to buy the joystick adapters to play this. It's good fun. I like the fact there's 3... Oh, been hit again. There's 3 separate screens to get through. So that's 5 cartridge games for the Tandy Colour Computer 2. Dino Wars, well, it's a very basic computer game. If you've got no friends, you're going to be out of luck. But all that scaling is very impressive for 1980. It's a very basic game, but this literally is from the dawn of home computing. And if you compare it to games like Pong, well, it's fairly advanced for its time. Video Pinball, it's Breakout, it's Pinball, it's Breakout Pinball. Very limited, but again, it comes back to that dawn of home computing thing. Skiing, boy, does this game press all my buttons. 1980 home system, a game with 3D scaling like that. It's very simple, and okay, right, you can't go fast, you can't go slower, you can turn the difficulty up, but it's got something about it. Wildcatting, boring as the most boring board game played on your own. Canyon Climber is quite superb. I love games that you have to climb up the screen to achieve things with, and it plays just as well as later games that use that same mechanic. Donkey Kong, for example. It's just a shame that it's as ugly as sin on PAL systems, but if you've got NTSC, or if you're in the UK and have an emulator available, it's going to look far better than the mess I've had to present you with today. Are any of these games must-plays? Well, perhaps Canyon Climber, but that's rather missing the point. These are games from the dawn of home computing that are perhaps far more advanced than the games we had on the home systems in the UK at the time.